Welcome back to Gappleton. Today we are finishing up the wishbone, which is going to do the location of my rear axle on the 4-link. If you've been following along, I've been building a low prep style 4-link to drag race the C10, which is a turbo LS stick shift truck. I didn't really show any of the design process because you guys have seen me draw stuff and cut it out on the plasma table before, and that's nothing new. But this is my wishbone kit, or at least it minus the guts. Or the structure of it. So here I have my machine shaft. My brother Nick helped me tap the threads on the end of that. There's the shaft that rides up and down with the bushings. A local buddy helped get the end of that machine for me and stuff, so big shout out to him. And then these are where it actually mates up to the frame. So how this is gonna go, if we look here, the tip that does the telescoping is going to go towards the diff, and then the two arms are going to go here and here on the frame, and that's what this is going to do. So I came out with the wife the other night and I'm like, I need your help because I'm not seeing something. Like, I want to ask somebody who doesn't do this stuff every day how they would do it, just to get a new creative perspective. And this is that's what we came up with, is mounting it to the diff. Originally I thought I was going to do something like this, where you have the diff and all the bolts, right? So what I ended up doing, I was gonna grab just two on each side, like you see there, but I ended up grabbing all of the bottom half, and then rather than doing a high and a low, I'm kind of doing a hybrid. I'm doing a support high and a standoff low, like that. And then that heim joint's gonna go in the middle. And that's what you see here. So these little wings, these are actually going to get tipped downwards at a slight angle. And then this piece is actually what those weld to, is gonna get bolted to the diff. Man, you ever just like build a part and you don't even want to paint it because it turned out so cool?
Really liking the welds lately. It's getting good.
Quick little update to my bracket design. Before I was using two that were equal length, that was going to set this bracket up square. Now I went to one that is longer. As you can see, this lower one is longer. The whole thing, the cutout is shifted to that one side. It's going to make it sit at an angle, so it's actually going to point towards the center. So rather than it being straight and then the joint really cocked over, it's going to sit at an angle like that. You can see the notch fits tight now, and it's actually going to point the joint towards the center. So now I start mocking it up in the truck. Here's a little bit about what this setup looks like.
I have my sleeve slipped over my slider shaft.
I have my brackets tacked on and my joints in there with the rod ends. And I have them pointed right at the center of that pipe. I don't know if you can see my little black mark right there. It's pretty faint, right there. Anyway, it's all leveled out in the same plane. Everything's pointing at itself.
Let's see. From this angle, it looks like my joint's got to come up a tiny bit, but you get the idea.
From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from my little ridge and the pipe to that center, and I'm just going to call this a long point of the cope. Maybe not. What I'll start with, I'm gonna do them long. I'm going to make my bars a little long, cope it, and then creep in on the short end. That's kind of how I'm gonna do it. There's gonna be some math involved here in order to figure out what this angle's got to be for these pipes coming in. But that's for me to figure out. So I know this distance between the center point of my joints, and then I know from my midpoint to the line that intersects those two, I can figure that out like this. So from there, I have that 19 5/8, 13 1/2. I can figure out that angle, because I'll just use half of this number to be this segment. I'll use trig, find out that angle, and that's going to be how my pipe intercepts the sliding one. This is going to be way too hard to show perfectly without enough hands, but our math works out, and this coped pipe mates up there, kind of like the camera showing, and lines up with our joint down below. So I'm going to make another one of these on the other end. Quick little update on how this is going. I got the pipes coped together and welded completely all the way around to the center section. This stuff always takes a lot more time than you think it does, but it's worth it. I didn't do a lot of lame time-lapse footage of building this thing, but the wishbone is fully welded. Pretty happy with how this TIG welding is turning out. Yeah, so kind of a bit of the process. Figure out the angles, do the two diagonal dealies, cut them to length after kind of mocking it up in with the post and stuff, and then fitting the cross beam, figuring out the angle between the two, dividing it, and then fitting that piece in and coping it all and welding it. So just letting it cool a little bit, and then I'm gonna slip the ends in and start the final fit up. Alrighty, that is a wishbone welded in. It's in there. It's very much in there. Wow. Yep, it's doing the thing. You probably can't see through my Shaco vision, but it is in fact articulating. And more importantly, it's locating the rear end left and right. Yeah, it's on there. So before, I could take the axle or the frame and move it back and forth and it would wobble, weeble wobble. Now, no weeble wobble. All right, today's tomorrow, or the next day, whenever it was. We have some updates. This has since been painted. You can kind of see it a little more clearly amongst all the metal. And now Taylor's back. And we are going to add in the last little bar, which is going to connect the front of this up to the frame. So I made these bolt-on things. There's one over on this side. It'd be a lot nicer to have this be a longer bar going more forward, out, more angle, blah, blah, blah. But there's a tank on that side. I have this tank ripped out because I don't need it anymore. So, yep, now we have to weld a little pad onto this corner and then connect it with the bar to kind of triangulate this in. So that's next.
Fine. Yeah. You get it? Oh man! What? The beautiful weld knows there is.
So what we did was we started with a really steep angle on this side to kind of get us off the frame, pointed at that pad. And that was an angle we started to creep up on just to get this pointed in the right direction. So this will point at the center of the pad. Now it's just a matter of, well, be fussing with it enough. Getting this plane to line up across here. Easier said than done, but we're kind of creeping up on it. And I want to do it long, that's why I have this shifted all the way forward. What I'd like to do is get it long and then just take that cut back a couple steps until this is at a good spot, more centered. So that's what I'm kind of doing. I'm kind of marking it around with a Sharpie, making that cut, and keep making adjustments, kind of trying to walk in on it until this fits right in that, or right in the center of that pad, and this lands on this pad up here on the frame. So after maybe 4 or 5 little iterations of walking in on this cut, this is kind of what I'm left with. So it's as centered on the pad as I'd like it to be. Like this is perfectly fine. And up top, I want this to be long. I don't want it to be really short and tight like that, because that gives all the leverage to kind of drive up under this bracket. So I really wanted this stretched out kind of. And just from walking it in, I think this is where I'm going to stop. Fitment wise, I think this is going to be what I want. All right, got both of these braces on and welded up. We were filling a little bit of gaps. They're not the prettiest welds, but the fitment on this piece was actually really, really challenging. So both sides are done. Watch me fall. Yep, that side's done, all welded up. And yeah, it is all braced. All right, out in the sun. This is the first time it is fully all together. Nothing bolted, all tightened up. Everything is all back together. This is gonna be the last little peak for a while before it has the bed on. Super, super excited. Finishing this one up a little bit late tonight, but hey, that's what it takes sometimes. Got the bed all bolted back down. Fuel neck is all done back up. Lights are plugged back in. This thing is ready to hit the road. Man, this has been a long time coming. I don't know. I think I worked pretty quick on this. It was probably like 2 weeks worth of work in the evenings and stuff like that. So 2 weeks to completely redo the rear end of the truck, I think is not too shabby. I am super, super excited to see what this does. Yeah, the before and after. I don't know. I don't know if I'll notice the second I put the hammer down or whatnot, but yeah. So now I have a sway bar in the rear, the different style 4-link. Yeah, we'll see what kind of manners it has on the streets. But thank you for watching. I'm gonna end it off here.